Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Moisman. Southampton nil, Aston Villa 1. First of all, Dan, how you doing, mate?
I think I speak for all of
Sweat
Villa
on the
fans when
brow,
I say,
absolutely.
jeez, have we done that then?
Robbed the
Mate,
bank,
wow.
mate.
Yeah, really have. But no, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Villa have won, eighth in the league. Things are looking pretty rosy. I have to say, mate, just it would be rude enough to go off on a tangent before we start a Villa podcast, obviously.
Of course.
Both of our trims, been about a month now,
It's
in check.
getting.
I,
I mean,
I,
yours
I,
isn't as bad because you have shorter hair anyway, so it doesn't look as bad. But like, I
I
mean, you
like it,
can see
mate.
there's not been a skin fade for a while, and
When am I seeing the Alice band?
well, do you know what? I went for a walk. It's right here. I went for a walk with my mum around the village the other day, and I'm pretty sure. I mean, there was some guys who drove past us in a van and was just like started screaming at me, and I could only imagine it's because I was wearing the Alice band, and that they were probably
None
thinking,
of it.
what is an
None
attractive
of
man
it.
like that doing with an old woman? It was my mum. There's your answer to that question. But yeah, do you know what? We'll shove it on right now, Dan, because I mean, I needed it out of my hair. I needed my hair out of my face earlier because
Nice.
I'm
I
so
like
stressed.
it.
Do you know what? Right, here's the problem. Obviously, I've kind of like see. This is gonna come. I'm gonna come across so weird. But like, whenever we have a pod, like I wash my hair every 2 days. That's what I
Yeah,
do. That's my routine. But
I get
that
behind that.
changes when we have podcasts because I like to make sure I've washed my hair. I've done something with it. I
I
look
feel you.
somewhat
I feel you.
presentable. For some of the transfer, when you see me with a hat on, I've either had a really bad day and I just couldn't be bothered, or I've just come straight back from work and I've been wearing a hat at work all day, so I've got to cover the barnet up.
Yeah,
But today
nothing
I've got
worse
no
than hat hair.
excuses. I've been out on 2 walks. I've been out and filled the car
Mate,
up.
you rock it. You rock
I
it.
appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. But it's a bit like it's a bit. Ooh, it's not quite committed at the back. It's not tidy. But there we go. Tangent over. Headband is in. I mean, it's more
Locked in.
effective than Matt
Locked in.
Target's Alice band that he was wearing. Like Project Restart. My guy had no hair and he was wearing an Alice band. It was like he saw Jack and was like, I just got to do it because my best mate's doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, speaking of hiding questionable things, Dan, so many controversial VAR decisions today.
Oh man,
I mean,
let's get into it.
it's really hard to come on this podcast, despite all of the complaining, as we've literally just had this conversation, Dan, about how it's gone against us. It just doesn't. It just doesn't sit right with me. Like I'm happy, but I'm. It's decisions like the late Danny Ings one with with the shoulder and. It ruins the game. It really does. But I'm not going to complain too much. I'm sure we'll get onto that a bit later, Dan. But this game, we've not won. We hadn't won in our previous 8 visits to St Mary's. Last time, take you back, a Fabian Delph screamer and a Libor Kojak goal left it late for Villa to steal the 3 points on the south coast. It wasn't like that today, Dan. I feel like Southampton, they had a lot of the ball. They're going to their at home 60% possession. It took Villa quite a while to really get into this game, and I never really felt like we were probably only really in it for about 15 minutes altogether, Dan, and that's a couple minutes before the goal, and the time that then passed to half time and then coming out in the second half. So it's really important that we saw this one through.
Yeah, mate, you're absolutely right with the point that you touched on VAR because yes, we are Villa fans, but both you and I, man, as is everyone listening to this podcast, we're football fans first and foremost, aren't we? And that's what I tried to tell myself over and over again when Ings put that ball in the net and it was ruled out. Is that we've had so many decisions go away against us this season. I still don't think I've seen any as close as that. I don't think in and that's not just in Villa games. I think I don't think I've seen a decision that tight, that controversial as the one we've just seen on Danny Ings, because it is literally. I think the commentator made the point is that Southampton were wearing black armbands.
Yeah.
Forgive me, I can't remember what they were memory of, but if they weren't wearing them, then it's such fine margins. Then perhaps Danny Ings is onside. But no, it's just a more anti-VAR thing. But no, look, let's take some positive from this, mate. Villa's 10th win this season from 19 games. That's more than we did in the whole of last season from 38, and we've literally played half the amount of games. It's our highest points total after 19 Premier League games since O'Neill's team of 09-10 racked up 35. these things make really good reading, mate. And we'd been a little bit poor recently. I think it was 1 win in 4. Our away form, we'd lost all of our last 4 away games, I think, something like that, and hadn't won in them. And it was coming to this game, and I wasn't too sure because both teams were on a bit of a bad run, and I felt like one of them was going to snap it. It wasn't at Villa's finest hour. Certainly wasn't Southampton's either. I think, that game really wasn't one for the neutrals. But we had that one moment of quality, mate. That one moment that was all it took, close to halftime, that won it for us. But if we're going to run through the game, it would be rude not to take it right back to the start, mate. And Matty Cash. On that effort from Danny Ings. Danny Ings can consider himself very, very unlucky tonight. But it's fake, mate. Danny Ings, I was doing my research pre-game. It's only Everton that he's scored more Premier League goals against than Aston Villa. And Shane Long is also scored more goals against Aston Villa than in any other team in his career. So Southampton strikers usually have a field day, and that's because we haven't beaten Southampton in any competition since 2013. And I've got to be honest, mate, when that ball deflected up onto Matty Cash's hand, I feared the worst. And I mean, still, if a Southampton player did what Matty did there, I would have been howling at my TV. I don't know about you, mate.
Yeah, but I think the main frustration came for me. The rule says if it bounces off a body part and hits the hand, that it's not a handball. That's as clear as day, right? How Jamie Carragher and Roy Keane can sit there in the studio and not see that it's taken a deflection off his knee. You're paid the big bucks to make these decisions and to have these opinions. True. And, whether or not you believe it should have been a penalty or not, you can't argue with the law. Like, again, it comes back to the points we've made on any other podcast where we've complained about VAR, Dan, is that, or the offside rule or whatever, is that the law is maybe wrong. But, this rule got changed months ago. We saw Cash get really hard done by in that Manchester City game with that penalty, which was, absolutely scandalous.
Very good point.
I hate to have to say, it swings and roundabouts in terms of VAR, because of course some teams do just get it a lot worse. Sheffield United. Who cares? Who cares? Consistency is what's needed, and interpreting the law as it is now, it wasn't a handball. So thank God Mike Dean didn't try and steal the spotlight on VAR at Stockley Park tonight. Saw some sense. Matty Cash, though, Dan, he must have made about 5 blocks this game. I don't have the numbers with me right now, but he made a countless amount of blocks throughout the whole game. Emmy could really rely on him when he needed to. And we've spoken many podcasts before, Dan, about the position he occupies, how he's often quite narrow. I think, and again, I hate to bang on about inverted wingers. I feel like I mentioned this. Everybody knows we play with inverted wingers because I say it about 10 times every podcast. But as we'd seen with Cash, and he was a winger and also a central midfielder, Cash, more often than not, makes the underlapping run, or doesn't overlap Bertrand, because Bertrand is coming in because obviously he is an inverted winger. And I feel like that's where we're not seeing enough of Cash on the overlap, putting them balls in as we'd like to, but that clearly isn't his game, because if I roll you back to the 5-5 at Villa Park, Dan, Matty Cash ran straight through the middle of the park, playing in central midfield, and scored against Orient Nile in that game. Or was it Lovre Kalinic? I think it might have been Lovre, actually. That was Lovre.
Yes. Mate, memory. Wow.
There we go. Villa Filler. Knowledge HQ. That's what we're calling it now. But he ran through the middle. That's his game. He's played central midfield. Yeah, he's played on the wing, but more often than not, you see him making these inverted runs inside. So we see Cash in a very narrow position, not only in the offensive phase, but in the defensive phase as well. And thankfully today, he managed to occupy plenty of decisions. He made like 2 or 3 blocks on the goal line, from the 80th minute onwards, really important to maintaining that clean sheet. Emi Martinez as well, man. 9 clean sheets so far this season. Damien, you beautiful man. He's been such an important signing, and Dean Smith is well aware of that as well. He says that we've brought in a good keeper. Obviously, it's why you brought him in. I mean, seeing that Arsenal let him go, of course, Bert Leno, very good goalkeeper. With his injuries and that, sorry, Alice Band's coming out, he's flying out. With the injuries and that Arsenal had with Leno, obviously, Emmy stepped up last season, Project Restart, looks very good. Of course, when you spend all that money on a goalkeeper that they had in Leno, no surprise that they want to keep him in the squad, have him as first choice. But the fact they've just loaned Matt Ryan as their backup goalkeeper, which, by the way, Matt Ryan is a decent enough goalkeeper.
Yeah, I really like Matt Ryan.
Yeah,
really like
this isn't a slander on Matt Ryan. This is a slander on Arsenal's business. And I shouldn't complain at all because we've got the best goalkeeper in the world as our number 26. So I'm not really complaining. I just can't believe that we have Emi Martinez in goal, Dan. Amazing.
What a signing he has been, mate. By far the best piece of business that we did. He's now chasing down Brad Friedel, who in that same season I was mentioning earlier, 09-10, where we picked up 3 more points at this stage of the season than we have done this time around. Brad Friedel kept 15 that season, and that's the best tally of a Premier League goalkeeper in a Villa shirt. So Emmy is bearing down on that pretty quickly, and we look good value to do it, mate. I thought the defence was good today. Ezri Konsa again outstanding, but Emmy's made a few saves. The one from Bednarek from a header, particularly, was just magnificent. And I feel so safe with him in goal. I can't imagine how the centre backs feel because he does everything so comfortably. You know, he's a real sweeper keeper. He looks as comfortable 35 yards outside his goal line than he does on it. He's such a good all-round goalkeeper, and he's really brought us to this point whereby we had that run of 7 away games at the start of the season. We won 5 of them, keeping 5 clean sheets in the process. Got a little bit sticky in the last 3, didn't it? We lost them, conceding 2 each time. I think it was really important for Emmy in that back line to put a stop to that against a side who, as I was talking about earlier, the players seem to not only favour it against Villa, but a side that we've really struggled against. And let's not forget, a side that topped the league at one point this season. I know they're in a exactly. Yeah. They were one of 9 sides who have led the Premier League this season, and so they're no slouches. Look, they're not the side that they were, sort of a couple of months ago, but they'll make a little renaissance. I have no doubt about that. They showed enough tonight. On a different day with a different referee, it could have been a very different game. I like Southampton. I like a lot about what they do, and I thought they provided good scope for Villa to get a bit gritty at times. And to be a real fighter. I mean, every time I watch Oriol Romeu, and I'm a big fan of his, but I can't believe he's a product of La Masia. He's like the complete antithesis of everything that like Catalan midfield is usually come through as. And I really like his game. And I thought we did initially struggle with a 4-4-2, like playing against Southampton's 4-4-2, which I thought was interesting considering we just come off the back of playing against one in Burnley. And I know they're very different styles, and just because they play the formation doesn't mean they operate the same. But I thought there were certain positions where we got a little bit overloaded in midfield, and we sort of had to fight our way out. And listen, I don't think it was at all, as I said, our best performance, but it was that one moment of quality. Yet again, Matty Target, he won't get enough credit for his role in the goal. The weight on the pass, the little dink ball over from Grealish that allows Jack to run round his marker and hit it first time. And that, for me, mate, when Ross runs onto that, is exactly what we signed him for. It's that late run into the box that no Villa player has been able to give us in a long time. That late surging run into the box is what he does best. And it was a really good header. And that, I was really pleased for Ross, first and foremost. His first goal since, I think, the 18th of October. Really nice for him to get that because he's been coming up to pace with it a little bit, hasn't he?
Yeah.
In the last few games. Certainly wasn't at his best against City. I thought he got a bit better against Burnley, but certainly wasn't at his peak. I don't think he was at his best today, but he gets that goal, which completely justifies, well, not that he needed to justify it, but there is the reasoning in an instance if you needed one as to why Ross Barkley is an essential player in this squad, because he still remains the only player in the team that can make that run and can finish them.
Yeah, I think the thing is with Ross is, first of all, he's not 100% fit, and you can see that. Didn't think he had a brilliant performance in particular. I think we're still yet to see the best of Ross Barkley, which is funny because we've seen him win the game at Leicester. We've seen him obviously be instrumental in the build-up to today's goal, which has obviously been the deciding factor against Southampton. And I feel like we're still waiting for full Ross Barkley, fully fit, to really emerge onto the scene. But you don't. He isn't the kind of player, especially with his injuries and that, who's going to put himself about into every tackle, going to throw himself all over the pitch, try and win the ball back like that. We play with this front four essentially, and his job is to steal possession. You saw that in many other games, not necessarily today, but he's in a position where he can receive the ball, he's in space, able to move the ball, get into the box, scores the goal. We almost saw it late on in the game. He pressurizes Bednarak when they don't play that ball long. Ross does that little run in behind and tries to steal the ball. That's what his job is. You don't play. If Villa were still playing with Douglas solely playing as a 6, sat at the base of that midfield, then you've got to expect Ross to do a bit more defensively. But we're playing a 4-2-3-1, a double pivot. We have 2 midfielders who, when we're in the defensive phase, in McGinn and Louise, whose job it is to tackle, to intercept, to do that. Of course, that doesn't excuse Ross totally, because there are times where he does need to apply pressure or put his boots in between, in between the ball and the man, whatever, to try and win back the possession. I can't defend that. There are certainly isolated incidences, but the way we set up, I don't think Dean is particularly too worried that Ross isn't necessarily making these challenges to, in the final third. Yeah, it would be nice to see a few more, and I'm sure when he's fully fit, we may well see a few more. But on the goal, Dan, just how that half a second Grealish let that ball bounce before he made the connection with his left foot, which this man doesn't have a weak foot. This he scored screamers with his left. No. It's just obviously I look better with the Alice band. Jack's got
it's the unwritten rule of football, mate. Unwritten rule of football. If you play with a headband, you're a better footballer.
Exactly.
It's the way it is.
He didn't wear one against Burnley. For the first half, at least.
If I speak, I'm thinking like Crespo, Angel, Ronaldinho. The list goes on. If you wear a headband, you're a baller. Jack Grealish is one.
That's it. That's all. Analysis done. Podcast's over. Subscribe for more.
It's been a wrap.
But I love it's having runners into the box. I just love it.
It's beautiful. We haven't. We haven't had it in so long, mate.
No. How often do I come on this podcast, Dan, and say I want midfield runners into the box, especially There's been so many occasions where we've seen the ball. Even this season, balls parried out. Yeah, we've got men in the box. No one's in the middle. No one's on the penalty spot.
That's the thing with this 4-2-3-1, isn't it? Is there's such an emphasis on that 10, particularly when your striker is Ollie Watkins, who does so much hounding, so much pressuring to arrive in those positions and deliver goals, because the wingers are in that formation a little bit narrower and sort of a creative force. And so there is that real pressure on that 10 to perform that. And it's a nice little fight, because one of the things as well at halftime that they were saying is that they felt like it was a simple header that Grealish would put it on a plate. I don't actually think it is really. I think
he's
Ross rides that guide. Yeah, he's really reached for that, and I think he guides it really nicely. I mean, McCarthy didn't even move, but no, it's none of that is made possible. You're right, without the ball from Jack, mate.
I think we need to because listen. Just looking at the stats, just looking at the game, man. 60% possession, 20 shots, 5 on target, 7 corners, 12 fouls. Southampton, very physical tonight. Very physical.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, again, I don't know how we've got away with this. 40% possession, 8 shots, 4 on target. Most of the attacking play, of course, as you know, comes down Villa's left-hand side. 53% of Villa's attacks came down that left-hand side, with only 23 through the middle, 24 down the right. Something that Villa could maybe improve on in the future, if I'm being hypercritical. But looking at the at how Southampton attacked, it was fairly even. They were more than happy to come and attack Villa, whatever side possible. If you look at the average player positions, you've actually got, again, Matty Cash is quite narrow. But we've seen him make plenty of defensive contributions. Matt Targett's actually stood pretty much on the halfway line, and Grealish is actually the furthest forward there. And it's interesting because if you compare that to Southampton's, you've got Kyle Walker-Peters, who is firmly in Villa's half a lot of the time, alongside James Ward-Prowse, whose job was essentially to just follow Jack Grealish wherever he goes, which explains his positioning. It's again, I'm so surprised Villa managed to escape Southampton with a goal, with 3 points, with a clean sheet, and Emi Martinez with 2 hands because Che Adams, oh my
Oh
goodness.
yeah, yeah.
Oh
That
my
that
God,
looked,
man.
that looked painful.
I was
The thing is,
worried.
yeah, no, I was as well. But that reflected the nature of the game, didn't it? Like it was
Yeah.
that physical, the game. And if anything, mate, that was a little bit pleasing for me because one of the things I noted in the podcast post Burnley was that we didn't match them physically in the second half.
Do you think we
Is that,
did? Do you really
I
think we
think
did today? Because I'm not quite convinced by that.
I think it wasn't. I think Southampton were more physical, but I think
Yeah.
if the stats wise, we went 18 aerial duels to their 12 tackles. They had completed 24. We had 23, but reflects that we actually matched them. And Matt Target made 9 tackles today.
Again, I love him.
Which we can't come on that Opus podcast and praise him enough. I think we're not a side given the stature of Louise and McGinn, Matty Target, God bless him, Bertrand Traore. We're not a side to, Jack to an extent, not a side to battle and grind and fight teams physically. I think Southampton have players who are far more inclined to go and do that. They weren't malicious with it. I don't think. That obviously there was that Che Adams incident. yeah. But they did it pretty fairly. I think we did a good enough job. I think matching them. Yeah. Whilst we played some really nice football at points, we did play some nice football at points, but the process of seeing out the game, Dan. Now, this is a big, big, big talking point because we said it last week. Dean, let me tell you something, brother. I know you're listening.
I hope he's listening.
You get on a coach, yeah? I think you actually get 2 coaches to game nowadays because COVID. And you've got your 11 players, and then you've got all these other guys, right? Not Shakespeare, not Richard O'Kelly, not JT, not even Big Nige, right? All these other lads, you can use them. You can bring them on. It's a beautiful system they have in place in the Premier League nowadays, Dan. It's like where you can play. Neil.
I was like, have we got
big cuts? Big cuts deserves better. I'm sorry, Neil. I'm sorry.
Nige is his new name.
Nige.
We're sticking with it. It's Nige. I was like.
This is the thing, Dan, is that in the same way I've swapped the identity of Nige and Neil, Dean Smith can do that with his players.
Yeah.
All those players, and oh my God, bro, it infuriated me. Why did we wait so long? The thing is I was sure we were going to see Sanson at some point. I was sure of it. I didn't think we'd get very long, but I thought if he's travelled, he's there, he's had the training sessions. I didn't think he'd get long because it is Dean Smith, but I thought we could use him. But the one thing, mate, is with the fixture congestion and how tight that game was and how it was not solely the reason we threw the game away against Burnley, but definitely a reason that we lost that game is because we didn't make the changes when we were ahead to maintain our grasp on the game.
Yeah.
We let that happen. We so lit. And on it, if Dean hadn't been saved by VAR at the end, if Danny Ings was onside, I would have come on here and been raging, mate. It's lucky that was offside because we've been off the hook. And why? I know the bench isn't the best. We've just improved it. But the thing is when you look at Heats was on the bench tonight, which is nice. I was always pleased to see that. But when you've got Anwar, who's done well this season, you've got Marv, who's done really well when called upon this season. Trezeguet's done well this season. You've got Sanson, who's your new signing, who we know is a good player. I don't understand the lack of faith in that bench, mate.
I don't know whether it's lack of faith in the bench or too much faith in the starting 11. There's an argument that can be made. You don't want to disrupt the rhythm, but really that last sort of 12 minutes, the game really slipped away from Villa. It was backs against the wall. Obviously, they scored the goal. It was horrible to watch. I almost pissed myself 5 times. It wasn't pleasant. I mean, my dad we couldn't bear to watch it. He walked out. It was not nice. It really wasn't. And we've seen it too much with Dean. We really have. Biggest complaint last season. Weren't making the subs, weren't making them early enough. Dean is never going to change his philosophy. His philosophy is to attack games. He's not going to sit there. He's not going to pack the box. He's not going to do. That's not how Villa play it under Dean Smith. But a serious case, again, like I said in the last podcast and after Burnley, a serious case can be made for putting Marv on.
Yeah.
for at least more than a minute and a half. My guy's he doesn't want to have a shower after that. That's he could just put his clothes on. He didn't like you didn't need to put him on because of how late you left it. Like it didn't make a difference at that point. And the
I
midfield
thought he was
looks
great against
tired.
Newcastle as well.
Yeah, no, he really was. And there's a lot of people that have said, "Oh, yeah, well, Newcastle are so poor, and you can't have your central defensive midfielder be the man of the match against Newcastle." And listen, if a guy plays well, there's no need to undermine that, underestimate. There is
Hmm.
no need that kind of disrespect. I'm sorry, I've not got time for. Marv came in, did a job, did it well enough. I don't care if it's against Newcastle. I don't care if it's against Burton Albion. I don't care if it's against five-a-side teams. He did what he was told to do. He did it well enough.
Really well.
And yeah, and deserved 20, 25 minutes tonight. Again, does it disrupt the balance of the team? You can make a case for that. But Villa didn't have a grasp on this game late on. They really didn't. There was a few opportunities late on, Grealish driving into the box. Obviously, we won the free kick. Instances like that. But I think someone like Marv, who, perhaps before the Newcastle game, I wouldn't be saying this because I'm not sure if he's quite sharp enough, if he's match ready. He's obviously not really played in a long time, but we've seen that he's capable of doing it in a Premier League game. So, why not 25 minutes, man?
I really don't understand it. And especially why, the point that you make actually about having perhaps not a lack of faith in the bench, but more so perhaps more faith than is actually quite sensible in the first team. It's not something I consider, and it's actually a very good point. But that's why perhaps it makes it even more nonsensical. Is like there was no rhythm to disrupt tonight in the second half.
No,
It's like
yeah.
if Villa were playing really really well and you didn't want to tinker with that, then fair enough. But it was slipping from Villa big time, and from the last time we played Marv was the last time we got a clean sheet before tonight. I mean, as I know it's only one game, but perhaps I'm reaching for it a little bit on that one. But no, I like, especially why, I hate, what's one of my pet peeves is like bringing players on to give them like a minute. I know it's more of a time wasting exercise than an actual substitution,
I'd
but
feel so disrespected.
well, that's my point, mate. It's like for Marv, who, let's be honest, I can imagine felt pretty aggrieved to be dropped for
Yeah,
Burnley, considering the Villa then went on to lose.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
imagine he felt pretty aggrieved to be dropped from that game. To then go into this game unaware that he's not starting, and then to be used essentially as a time wasting exercise, when in reality he's probably seen that he could have easily put in half an hour out there and made things a lot easier for Villa. Is I'm not saying for a second there's going to be a mutiny in the dressing room or anything like that, but Marv does deserve better than that. But
Yeah.
look, we're not really in a position to complain about it too much, mate. We've got the win. We're now up to 8th, which is just great. But the next game is a really next two really, both at home. West Ham and Arsenal. Two sides which, if you said to us, come basically what is February, you've got West Ham and Arsenal, one sat in 5th, one sat in 9th, which one is which? You wouldn't have put West Ham in the Europa League, would you? What a job they're doing. But that's going to be a really big test for us, mate.
Yeah, and they've got Liverpool tomorrow, so that's gonna, I think hopefully bring them down to earth. They've won the past 4 games. Before that, I'm pretty sure that they'd won. I can't remember who they lost to, but they were on a similar run of form where they'd won 4 in a row. We'd seen them climb up the table. They've signed Lingard, who we did a transfer rumor mill about, so he's going to score against Villa. It's. I feel sick, man. I feel sick. Like that's people can say what they want about Lingard. This signing to me, it's genius for West Ham. It just is. Moyes has worked with them before. They're flying high. I
I
don't
think he'll
really
do
think you
well.
can make. I don't think there's a signing that you can make that really disrupts that run of form. It's just another option to have. Does he necessarily break into that midfield too that we've seen of Soucek or Rice? Probably not. Impact sub off the bench, absolutely. Can we see him playing on the wing? Maybe. Yeah. And I feel like this kind of happens every other season. We see a team similar to West Ham. Look at Wolves, the way they came up. Look at Chelsea under Antonio Conte. When teams switch to a back three, the rest of the league just panics. They don't know how to defend against them because you're set up perfectly to counter teams in transition. That is essentially why you play a back three, to hide the defensive deficiencies that are within your side, which, let's be honest, nobody foresaw Andrea Logbonna channeling his fellow countryman Giorgio Chiellini's form and firmly getting himself back within a shout for the Italian squad coming up for the Euros. He looks like a new player. He really does. Some credit does have to be given, but as I say, it's difficult. Like, teams really don't know what to do against a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2, because if you overcommit, you're going to get killed on the counter attack. And that kind of brings me to a point that I've seen a few people tweet about. I think maybe Dom from Heart of the Holte may have actually tweeted it, about how the Premier League it's becoming stale. It's boring. There's too much riding on it because of money, because of relegation, because of everything, that a lot of teams are just so scared to attack. This is a big game. We're talking about hopefully qualifying for Europe. Of course, West Ham are well up there as well. I believe they're 5th at the moment. They've probably gone down the table actually since a few games have been played and they haven't played. But coming into this match week, they were 5th. West Ham United are 5th with David Moyes in charge. These are the people. Southampton. We spoke about this on the Burnley podcast, Dan. These are the teams you have to beat if you want to get the European football. You need to beat the teams around you. So there's a lot There's seriously an incredible amount riding on this game, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And it's one of those where I think for both sides, it's going to be a really good yardstick of exactly sort of where they stand, because it's a battle of two overachievers, really. And I mean, West Ham certainly more so, but obviously we do have that extra day's break going into this one, and they do play Liverpool tomorrow, which is going to be no mean feat. And Liverpool can really, get themselves back in the hunt big time if they pick up a result tomorrow. So they'll be very eager to do so. But I'm really looking forward to it. But they pose a lot of threats. Souček is scoring for fun at the moment. Mikel Antonio does the business whenever he's called upon for West Ham, and they've been really quite solid for the most part. I know they haven't kept a clean sheet in either of their last games against West Brom and Crystal Palace, which sort of negates everything that I've been saying. But they've kept up some really quite, considering that back line, considering like Craig Dawson has been playing at points and stuff like that, who I scoffed at points. But when you look at, they've conceded 24 goals. Liverpool are on 23, Leicester on 22, Man United have conceded 27, Everton have conceded the same 24. We've only conceded 21, and our defence is considered to be pretty watertight. So they're good defensively. They get a good amount of goals. They've just signed Said Benrahma positively. It's a good time for the first time in a long time to be a hammer. It's also the Elliot Lewis derby. Shout out to Elliot on the podcast. He's a marketing intern at West Ham. So his allegiances will be divided for this one. But no, it's a game that I'll be really looking forward to, mate. And what is it? A late one again, isn't it? 8:15?
I think so.
8:15, I think. Yeah. So it'll be another late night Villa Villa too. You'd love to see it.
Yeah, I think it might be a bit later because I think I've got. Well, I'm waiting on it to be approved.
Don't do it to us.
I'm sorry, man.
Stop stunting. You don't have to do it.
You guys know. You guys already know. The people with the notifications on, they're going to see the podcast as soon as it's ready anyway, man. And if it's a win, people stay up anyway. I mean, we saw there was someone in the comments. I can't, forgive me for not being able to remember your name, but I think it was what was the last game I went to? I can't even remember. The last home game.
See, you're in a very.
I can't even remember.
You're in a very good position to not be able to remember the last home game. Oh, yeah, it was. Lucky guy. I can't believe it.
The Newcastle game, we did all right for views. It was a late upload because obviously I had to get back and we had to record this after doing the work. And there was a guy who commented saying he was staying up for the Conor McGregor fight, which I'm sure he was probably really disappointed with how quick that one ended. But said that, we should maybe talk about other sports, other leagues, other stuff. So if that's something that interests you, let us know. It's definitely something that we consider. But speaking about that, I mean, depending on when you guys listen to this, hopefully this will be out before midnight. But if it's not, on the Sunday, Dan and I are going to be streaming at 7:00, Morgan and Wise. Last time round, we didn't manage to beat Southampton. We actually lost to them in the Carabao Cup. So I'm glad that Villa got the dub this time round. But if you want to see some action, see how Dan and I fare as Aston Villa managers. If you want to just jump in for a chat, we'll be talking about Premier League, European football, anything that's on the agenda. I mean, we're here. We'll probably have some basketball on at the same time as well, with an eye on that.
Be a good time.
We're here for vibes. We know AJ. AJ, if you're watching this, get your shirt ready. You know.
It's going.
It's going to be ripped off when we win a game. But yeah, if that's something that catches your fancy, Dan and I will be streaming live here on YouTube from 7 o'clock, probably for about an hour and a half. And if you don't catch that, it will be uploaded probably about 3 or 4 hours later. It depends. YouTube takes a while to process. But I mean, to everyone who's watched these podcasts recently, the Burnley one, it was a bit of a slow burner, which, to be fair, we lost. It was late. Understandable, but everybody watched that. Thank you so much. Genuinely means the world. It's hard trying to stomach it, trying to relive that as Dan and I tried to with these podcasts for you guys. So it's understandable that not many of you were interested, but to everyone who watched, thank you so much. If you enjoyed this content, hit the like button, comment your thoughts below. How lucky were we? We were so lucky. Comment that. Let us know your predictions for the West Ham game. And if you're not, subscribe for more content. Up the Villa.